Champions League this weekend, it was Lyon versus Barcelona. Oh, well, they end up winning it all 3-1. All 4 of these goals came in the first half of this match. It was a little crazy, but let's talk about the U.S. players. Lindsey Horan, Kat Macario, 90 minutes for each of them. And Kat Macario, she nets a goal in this one. I mean, what can Kat not do, frankly?
Well, right. Everything. She can do everything. Yeah, it was, I think, just a phenomenal display of soccer, the atmosphere. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the broadcast, how wonderful that was too, like a World Cup final feeling, which, it should be. It's a Challenge Cup final, 2 excellent teams that have really
You called it the Challenge Cup final. It's the Champions League final, but I got it. We get NWSL on the brain.
I am so glad you caught that, because I have been so mindful of that in the past, because I keep thinking when I wanted to say Challenge Cup during the Challenge Cup, I wanted to say Champions League. So I'm like all over the place now. Hilarious. But here we are. Yeah, phenomenal display of soccer. Lyon taking it to Barcelona, I think a bit shell shocked. I wasn't fully expecting that. I thought this was going to be a completely different outcome. But you know what? I don't care. It was an awesome game, and huge credit to Lindsey Horan and Kat Macario. Becoming, I think, the 3rd and 4th player to American players to play in a Champions. I have to be careful what I'm saying now. Champions League finals. So. And Kat with a goal. It's awesome. It really is
huge. Kat playing a double 9 almost at times with Ada Hegerberger. And really, I like seeing Kat so much higher. Like, this is it for her. Her days in the midfield are gone.
Well, listen, we're going to talk about this more, but I think a little bit that maybe they aren't totally, because she is obviously on my 23 player roster, but I also have bolstered the attack a little bit more, because I think Kat can drop into the midfield when necessary. So it's just that played into part of my thing. But you're right. I think higher up the field is better.
Conversation saying, what can't Kat do? Yeah, she can play up front. She can play in the midfield, but she's much more dangerous when she's up front.
I mean, you're not wrong. She scores goals, right? She scores goals, and it's fantastic. And honestly, I felt really fortunate that we were able to watch that game. It was such a good game. I still felt like, even though they went down, Barcelona could have come back. They had their opportunities, right? So, but a great game plan. And I played with Sonia Bonpastor. She's a really good friend of mine. And when they came over here in August last year to play in the ICC Championship, she it was really great to see her. So, yeah, I'm really proud of her.
Love to see that. Yeah, it was a really, really great game, and it was a great broadcast. How we were able to watch it, and the fact that so many people tuned into this is huge, because the game is growing. And get on board now if you haven't already, because you are for sure missing out. Let's look at the NWSL a little bit, because midweek matches, a lot of them. There's 4 in the midweek last week, and then a whole slate of games this weekend. Doubleheader on Saturday, quadruple header, I guess, on Sunday. But we saw a lot of different things. I mean, we've talked so much about some of the veterans. I'm going to start with them, because Megan Rapinoe, she started and got a lot of minutes for OL Reign. Alex Morgan scores a game-winning goal. So that's 6 goals for Morgan in 4 games. And then Christen Press, a forced own goal against Kansas City for Angel City to win. And because of Morgan and Press, San Diego, number 1 in the standings, Angel City, number 2 in the NWSL standings. I want to talk about these veterans a little bit, because between Alex Morgan, Christen Press, Megan Rapinoe, and then Becky Sauerbrunn coming back from injury, she got minutes in Wednesday's game, started and then didn't play the full 90, but you can tell that Sauerbrunn is also coming back. When you look at this slate of group of veterans that are getting so much consistent time in the NWSL, performing, producing for Morgan and Press, and Rapinoe to come back from injury, as well as Sauerbrunn. What's kind of your evaluation of these ladies from this weekend?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, we've been waiting for this, right? I mean, there's been a lot of talk, and really we've been talking about this for a while, it feels like. And really it's been Christen Press and Alex Morgan, the ones that we have been talking about, that are getting the most playing time and producing for their teams. But it was just a matter of time for these other players to come back. I think it's great to see Megan Rapinoe back and healthy and getting the start for the first time this season. In yesterday's game against Washington, which was a 0-0 tie. And I think it'll still take Megan a little bit of time just to, in terms of being even more influential in the game. and her team utilizing her in the ways that are the best, that will showcase her talent, obviously, right? So, but a solid performance for her. I think with Becky Sauerbrunn back, that's huge, especially with Atina Davidson out for Chicago. I mean, when you're just thinking about the overall picture, right? Where does this put these players in the mix with the national team? Well, it brings them back into what Vlatko is wanting them, performing consistently, getting the minutes, and then he can evaluate from there and decide what he needs, right? Depending on what the team looks like and how other players are producing. But I mean, overall, not surprising that Alex Morgan continues to score. I mean, she is the focal point right now. I do like her better when she's more central for San Diego. I think she's more effective. I think she has the ability to, as we saw in her goal yesterday, split the two defenders, especially when teams get in expansive shape, right? Like, I mean, Kurtz and Urseg, I don't think we're expecting the ball to be lost and turned over at that point in time. And then a great look for Korniak. So, I mean, listen, and it was a clinical finish from Alex Morgan. Christen Press working her butt off, doing what she needed to do to force that own goal. So listen, these players are doing exactly what you expect them to do, scoring goals if you're strikers, and then for the others, just working their way back and getting consistent minutes, because they've proven that they can play at this level. So it's not, are you going to be good? That's not the question, right? It's just like, okay, what form are you in? Can you stay healthy, and can you continue to get those consistent minutes?
Yeah, I think that's such a good point because, we know Megan Rapinoe can play and whip an incredible ball in and the vision. Yeah, she's going to be fine. And so is a player like Becky Sauerbrunn. But for them to get back and start to get those consistent minutes is positive, especially when we're looking at naming our roster, because last week we probably couldn't have named Becky Sauerbrunn. She hadn't been played yet. So I'm excited to talk about that a little later. Just a preview of our 23-player roster if we were naming it right now. But there are some other players I want to talk about. Goalkeeper Casey Murphy for North Carolina Courage out with injury. The entire Challenge Cup, as North Carolina went on that incredible run, ended up winning the Challenge Cup. And then North Carolina hit with a bit of COVID, and Casey Murphy goes from out to questionable moments before the Wednesday game for North Carolina. She ends up playing in that Wednesday match. And then again, with Caitlyn Rollin available this weekend, the backup goalkeeper, Casey Murphy is back in goal. I think she looked pretty good, pretty mobile for someone who hadn't played for a lot of the months. But is this a player that's still in the U.S. rotation? Because she played tremendously in November with the national team, and then dealing with a bit of this injury bug, we're just starting to see her back in action.
Oh, yeah. I think this player is certainly in contention, right? And I think if she hadn't gotten injured, then there would be a lot of talk consistently, I think, on this show on who potentially would be the number one, right? For me, and we'll get into this later, but she's certainly in the three for World Cup contention. And, that's the broader picture. But I definitely think she'll be called in for the June camp if she could stay healthy, no doubt. Just given her performances, she was solid again. She's good with her feet, right? She's a big presence. And even talking to Sean Nahas about her, there's a confidence that she brings to her team. Caitlyn Rollin, excellent job, made some big saves when needed. But there's another level with Casey Murphy, and no doubt they're number one. So just a really great strike for somebody like Alex Morgan against Casey Murphy. Nothing she could really do about that one after it was already a split ball through the middle. So, yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I think it's good to see these players, as you mentioned, Andi Sullivan coming back, right, as well. I mean, this is what we need, because this is about the time you have about a month or so before that June window for the next international break. And then you would imagine that's going to be a very similar group to what will be going to qualifiers, or minus a few here and there, depending on what the conversations are with Vlatko.
You're exactly right. Now's the time that these players need to be getting back into form. You mentioned Andi Sullivan. She was available for 30 minutes off the bench. She got time with Washington Spirit. But another player, Mallory Pugh, suffered a concussion towards the end of the Challenge Cup, missed most of the regular season up until this past weekend for Chicago Red Stars, and is available off the bench. She subs in at halftime, immediately gets an assist, and then notches 2 goals. Yeah, I think Mallory Pugh was itching to play.
Yeah, Mallory Pugh, what a finish that was too. My goodness. Like, I mean, we aren't really seeing. There's two plays that stand out, and I don't know if anybody's like going to remember this one. There's when Megan Rapinoe came on for her first game, which would have been two Fridays ago, right? The very first game that she played, Friday night game against Portland and Cascadia rivalry. She played this ball first time into the path of Ali Watt that you do not see many players play, right? or we just don't see players play that ball. And then that finish from Mallory Pugh. I mean, most people are striking that with their laces. It's just hitting on a rope, right? And it's either not hitting the target. And I'm not just like, I'm just saying it's a clinical finish from Mallory Pugh to collect that ball, open up and bend it into the far post against a world-class goalkeeper in Aaron McLeod. So, I mean, it's good to see Mallory Pugh back, especially suffering that concussion is basically the bottom line.